What's good, everyone? My name is Mr. Peters. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys a complete review on fractions. So we're going to take a review on how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. And I'm going to give you all some very simple tips to make it an easy process. So let's get started. So when we're talking about adding and subtracting fractions, there's two simple rules. Number one, that bottom number, the denominator, has to be the same before we add or subtract our fractions. Once we see that the bottom number, the denominator, is the same, then we could go ahead and add or subtract our fractions. But what we need to remember is that when we're actually subtracting and adding, guys, we only add and subtract the top numbers. The bottom number will always stay the same. So if we look at this problem here, our answer would just be 3 over 8. If we were subtracting, right? Let's rewrite this. Instead of adding 1 and 2 to get positive 3, we would do 1 minus 2 and we will get negative 1 over 8. So as long as we have the same denominator, then we can add or subtract. But let's look at a problem where we don't have the same denominator. How do we go about trying to add and subtract? So let's say we have the problem. We had 1/2, and they want us to add 2 over 4 to it. Well, matter of fact, let's do 1 over 4. They want us to add 1/2 and 1/4. So as we take a look, we know that we cannot start this problem off because the denominator is two different numbers. We have a 2 and we have a 4. So the first thing we want to understand is, okay, what can I do so that these two fractions have the same bottom number? And normally what we do is we talk about our common multiples. So what that means is, let's say I write the common multiples for 2. So we have 2 times 1, 2, 2 times 2, 4, 2 times 3, 6, and 2 times 4 is 8. So that's an example of what multiples are, common multiples. And now we're going to go back and do the same thing for 4. So we have 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, and so on. But I stopped right there because we found our common multiple of 4. We have 4 and we have 8. So I'm going to pick the smaller number because it's going to be a little bit more easier to work with. So now that we know what denominator we're going to use, right? Now we have to change 1/2 so that it has the same denominator as 1/4. So let's bring down 1/4 since it's going to stay the same, right? Now, what could we do the 2 so that we could get 2 to 4? And what you guys should understand is, hey, if you want to change 2 into 4, we just have to multiply it by 2. So once I do that now, right, let's put multiply by 2, and let's put this in red so it sticks out. We're going to multiply by 2, guys, and just forget whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top and vice versa, okay? So we can't just multiply the bottom number and not do the same for the top. So now once we do this, this fraction is going to change into 2 over 4, right? I'll put my addition sign. And now I notice that I have the same denominator for my problem. So now we can move on to the next step, which is adding or subtracting these fractions. So when we go out to the side, right, all we have to do now is add a top number. Our final answer will be 3 over 4. So this is adding and subtracting fractions. Now let's go over to multiplication, right? And let's just write this out to the side so we don't forget, right? Multiplication. So now when it comes to multiplying fractions, guys, the rules are a little bit different. So let's say we have the problem. We have 2 over 3, and we're going to multiply that by 3 over 4. So when it comes to multiplying fractions, we do not have to worry about the denominators being the same. The two rules we're going to follow is we're going to multiply straight across. And when we say multiply straight across, this is what we mean. Multiply my top number with my top number, then I'm going to go back and multiply my bottom number with my bottom number. So after we do this now, we have 6 over 12. And understand, guys, this is the answer. However, typically in math, your teacher is always going to ask you to simplify it to lowest terms. So in this problem, lowest terms would be 1/2. And I'm going to explain what that means. So we're trying to find a number that we could divide both 6 and 12 by until we can't divide any more. So if I write out my factors, right, I have 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. Then when I go over to 12 and I do the same thing, I have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. So I'm going to pick the highest factor. So I pick 6, right? And I notice that when I divide both the top and bottom number by 6, it's going to give me that answer of 1/2. So when you're multiplying fractions, guys, very simple. We're going to multiply straight across and then we're going to simplify. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and do one more of these problems just for practice. So let's scroll on down and let's go to our second one. So in our second problem, we have 2 over 5 multiplied by 3 over 4. And with this problem, I'll show you guys two different ways to do it, just so you could pick the one that's easier for yourself. So after the first example, we could go ahead and multiply straight across, right? Once we multiply straight across, we'll get 6 over 20. And when I look at this, I know that I could possibly divide this by 2. And when I divide both the top and bottom number by 2, I will get 3 over 10 as a final answer. But let's just backtrack, right? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rewrite this. We have 2 over 5 times 3 over 4. So let's say if we cross canceled, right? So we have 2 and we have 4. If we divide both of those by 2, our 2 is going to turn into 1, and then our 4 is going to turn into 2. So once we multiply straight across, we would have got the direct answer. So we wouldn't even have to simplify. So that's a trick that you guys could use if you do not want to simplify at the end. If you want to simplify at the end, both methods we're absolutely going to get the same answer. Now we're going to move down to what I would call is the rule that a lot of us forget, which is dividing. So let's scroll on down some more. And when we look at this last example, guys, just remember, I know everyone hears the keep, change, flip. Um, I'm not big on using it because sometimes students forget what to keep, what to change, what to flip. So this is my explanation. Hopefully it works for you. So what we're going to do is we are going to change this division problem into multiplication, and we're going to only take the reciprocal of the second fraction. So this is what I mean. So 3 over 5 stays the same, right? When we divide fractions, we're actually going to multiply. So we change the division symbol to multiplication. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, change it to multiplication. And now we're going to take the reciprocal. So the reciprocal means top number comes to the bottom, bottom number comes to the top. So the reciprocal of 4 over 1, if we flipped it, the reciprocal of 1 over 4, if we flipped it, would be 4 over 1. And similar to multiplying fractions, we're now just going to multiply straight across. And if we could simplify, we will. So this problem turns into 12 over 5. And we could leave that as a mixed number, guys, okay? So in our second example, let's see, what problem could we use? Matter of fact, let's use this one. We're going to use 2 over 5, right? And we're going to divide this by 3 over 4. So we're just going to take that problem we worked with earlier, and we're going to rework it as a division problem. So at this step now, guys, same thing applies. First equation is going to stay the same. So draw our arrow. 2 over 5 stays the same, right? After 2 over 5 now, what we're going to want to do is change our division sign to multiplication. And we want to make sure we take the reciprocal, right? So we're going to change that fraction. We're going to turn it upside down. So now our problem is 2 over 5 multiplied by 4 over 3. And once we do this, we would get 8 over 15, right? But just for practice sake, working with mixed numbers, let's say our final answer was 15 over 8. If I asked you guys to turn this into a proper fraction, right? It's an improper fraction. We want to turn it into a mixed fraction. I'm sorry. We want to turn it into a mixed fraction. We would say that, hey, 8 goes into 15 one time, right? So we'll draw that one there. And then what is the remainder? The remainder is going to be 7 out of 8. So thank you guys for joining us today. This is Algebra with Mr. Peters. If you found this video helpful, we're going to ask that you leave a comment, subscribe to our channel for future videos, and we thank you guys so much for joining us today. Join us next time when we dive deeper into mixed numbers and how to divide, add, and subtract mixed numbers. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.